So I was taking a little bit of time away. I'm at a private island in an undisclosed location, and I thought I would just share something with you. Hopefully the audio is going to be okay on this. This is an interesting thing happened on my Twitter account. And what we're going to sort of talk about is the stories that you guys tell yourselves. And a lot of times that story or that narrative is so that you can protect your ego and feel better about not taking the action that you should be taking in order to better your life. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to go on my primary channel or my mindset channel, right? So I'm not sure where this video is going to show up yet, because it does involve getting the girls and the dating and all that, okay, which is primarily one channel, but it also involves mindset. And it just has to do, again, with these stories you tell yourself. So this guy gets on my Twitter, and he's like, so us alpha males, refers to himself as an alpha male, which I find interesting and hilarious, all right? And he says, well, we alpha males, and I'm paraphrasing, we end up single, or we end up settling with some woman we don't like, basically, right? So the alpha males, to include him, of course, we end up single and basically dateless with no women, or we end up having to settle. And the reason is because of women today, and they're not virgins, and they have body counts and like all this stuff, right? So that was the story, right? Is how he can't get girls because of because of women in 2025, and all these alpha males out there, boy, they're just suffering with no girls, no pussy for alpha males here in 2025. We're just suffering. It's a pussy famine if you're an alpha male, apparently, according to this guy on my Twitter. And so it's like, bro, like, that's not how it works. Listen, guys, I know that women are harder to deal with, particularly here, like 2025. Like, I get it, all right? But that doesn't excuse you for not having the dates that you would want and having beautiful women in your life, having a relationship if that's what you want. That's just all an excuse, because that's not how a winner thinks, all right? So I'll give you a military example. Like, let's say we're working with the Afghan government, and we're trying to find bad actors and double agents. Let's say they're hard to find, and there's just not that many of them, but we have intelligence knowing that yes, they are indeed there, right? Well, we don't make up an excuse and say, well, yeah, like, we know there's these double agents, there's these guys who work for the Taliban and, inform the Taliban of what, the Afghan government's doing. This is referring back to the Afghanistan war prior to the Taliban taking over. We know this goes on, but it's too hard to find them. So I guess we're screwed now, and we can't do anything about it. That's not how a winner thinks. Maybe they're hard to find or whatever, but that's not an excuse. What you do is you learn better skill sets to figure out how to gather enough intel, suss out, isolate, find out the bad guys, right? Where they're at, where they're hiding. You come up with a better plan, because the current plan must not be working if you can't complete the mission. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's better skills and a better plan. Not excuses or all the reasons why things are hard. There's a lot of things that are hard and shitty in 2025, and I guess what? There's a lot of things that are hard and crappy in any generation, at any decade in history. And it didn't, especially depending on what environment you got born into. But none of those things excuse figuring out how to win, okay? And that's strike one. So you're not an alpha male, all right, quote unquote. We should probably define that a little bit. If you're not having a winning mindset, alphas win. That's by definition. I would say. And what is definition, right? So like, it's the word alpha male is kind of stupid because people just decide to make it mean whatever they want. But if we want something somewhat scientific, we can look at our closest ancestors, the chimpanzees. chimpanzees, there is a definition for what an alpha male is in chimpanzee troops due to people who studied chimpanzees. And it basically boils down to three things. The alpha males are the more physically dominant, they're the more socially dominant, and they're the more sexually dominant of a chimpanzee troop. Okay, so an alpha male, or the higher status betas, meaning they're not the top dog, but they're not the top chimp, but they're pretty close. They're that way because they're more socially powerful or dominant. They're also more sexually dominant, so they get more of the women and more sexual opportunities. And they're also more physically dominant, generally speaking. And we can get into the weeds about social dominance, how that can cross out some of the physical stuff. But at the end of the day, you can't sit here and call yourself an alpha male if girls don't like you. If you can't get women, okay, you're not an alpha male. By definition, of the most basic definition that we could come up with in when we look at our closest ancestors, you can't be an alpha male with no pussy, right? Or no female opportunities, no mating opportunities, not knowing how to be attractive to women. If you can't make social alliances and figure out how to do stuff, to include making money, because making money is a social game as well, to some degree, right? If you're selling something, if you're promoting something, you're dealing with a social game on a larger scale. So if you're broke, right? If you can't figure out how to make a decent enough living, and I'm not talking about supercar millions of dollars, private island situations like these. I'm talking like, if you're broke and struggling all the time financially, you can't sit here and say like, I'm an alpha male necessarily, right? I mean, if you can't figure out that survival piece, if you can't, get women like at all, you're not attractive to women, like you can't make that happen for yourself, that you're not really an alpha male, right? Because you would have mating opportunities. I don't care how trashy women are. It doesn't matter. Like, you'll figure it out, right? And if you have no physical dominance at all, you're not physically capable, you can't exactly call yourself that. Doesn't mean you need to be the toughest, most jacked, strongest, tallest guy. All right, we know there's a lot of, tall guys with good genetics that are, incredibly weak in their mindset and in everything else. But you have to at least be physically capable. So, like, you can't call yourself an alpha male sitting on the internet, sitting in front of your computer, not knowing how to fucking fight, not having any friends, and not getting any girls. All right, so that's just crazy. And then guys, what's this? And then guys come up with sigma male, right? What's a sigma male? It's like a super-powered alpha who has no friends and no pussy, and probably broke someplace. Like that, it's like this magical thinking, right? Where you have to come up with some term to try to make yourself feel better. And that is what we're talking about here, isn't it? We're talking about telling yourself a story to make yourself feel better instead of doing better. And that's what, unfortunately, a lot of you guys are doing here in the dating market for yourselves. You're doing it everywhere else, too, a lot of times, but particularly in the dating market. The bottom line is you don't know what you're doing. You don't know. If you're not doing well with women, it's because you don't have the skills and your plan sucks, okay? So you don't have skills in talking to women. You don't have skills in sourcing women. You don't have skills in in attracting women, okay? You don't have skills in sex, so girls aren't coming back for more sex from you. You don't have skills in seducing women and making them feel good, all right? And so if you don't have those skills, that's your problem. I understand women have more bodies. I understand there's less women available that are good relationship-minded girls, or we could say LTR material. That's true. All that stuff is true, okay? But just to have no access to any kind of a good time with women, right? No dates, nothing. That's a you problem, all right? That's not a 2025 problem. That's not a ratchet women, blah, blah problem. Because I'll tell you a couple of examples. I got one client, for example, his area, it's not to say there are no good-looking girls in his area, because there's probably a good-looking girl in every single area, but he is an area that is dominated by obese, purple-haired, too much tattooed, crazy-ass women, right? So that's unfortunately, the liberal sort of area he lives in, that's what dominates the dating market, okay? It's not that he couldn't find somebody in that market, but it sort of makes it more difficult. So what does he do? He decided to rent out his house, okay, come up with a plan, arrange his finances, figure out his job situation, and he's going to a different area. He's actually going to go to a different country where there's beautiful feminine women, and it's just much easier from a numbers perspective for him to do well. He still has to learn the skills in talking to women, seducing women, making them feel good. He's not immune to that. He still has to learn those skills or he's not going to do well. But he liked the idea of traveling, and so that's what he's doing. That doesn't mean this whole geomaxing thing is the answer for you. I have other clients who stayed home and they just rearranged their social circles. Their social circles, there were just old friends and, a bunch of losers that they're hanging out with, or sometimes not very many friends. And then the girls that they would try to source would be at bars and, trashy places. And so they just didn't have good results. They could get women, but there were always these trashy types. And so what did he do? He expanded his social circle. He has a better, more professional, upscale social circles of people that are more minded towards success, have better values, I have other clients who decided to do that in smaller towns that like being involved in their church or being involved in community stuff. I mean, sounds crazy, but these are all options to level up your social circles. And then by doing that, they have more opportunities with better quality women. So like, there are ways. You guys just have to stop thinking like losers. You have to stop thinking like a failure and stop giving yourself excuses and looking for a story to tell yourself so you can be the big stud alpha male on a mountaintop all by himself with no women and no friends. Right? Like, come on. And no fun and a lot of mental problems, right? A lot of distress. Telling yourself, though, how tough you are and how alpha you are, right? You're so alpha that nobody likes you. Like, what? That's not how shit goes, man. Stop coming up with names and terms and fantasy terms for yourself to try to make yourself feel better, feel cool about your problems. Instead, start facing your problems, right? Start facing your problems and doing something about it. So with that, what stories are you telling yourself? What excuses are you giving yourself? And listen, most of my guys who get into my community, link is in the description. You can hit that link, join for free, all right? To start off with, you might need some coaching, so that'll be a different conversation. But the community is free, you can get in. But anyways, there's a lot of guys in there. Most guys attracted to the community are higher level guys who are doing a bit better. So, but even you guys who are higher level guys, this isn't just a conversation for creeps and incels and weirdos. And this is a conversation for you too, because everybody has a story. And is the story that you're telling yourself giving yourself permission to fail? Are you giving yourself an out? Is your story, whether it's I'm an alpha male or, I'm doing pretty good over here and this and that, whatever, I don't know, whatever it is. Oh, you hear this in relationships. I love my wife and, it's this and that and the other, and then something about the Bible, right? Or whatever. It's a bunch of babble to justify the fact that he's in a sexless marriage, right? Oh, but it's all about the kids and we're busy and this and that, and it's just some stuff to justify the sexless situation he is in, the loveless situation he is in, giving the wife and the excuses, giving the relationship excuses. He's just got to tell this fucking story to himself so that he feels better, and all that does is prevent him from taking action and doing something about it. And that's the thing. I get guys who like, oh, my life is a mess. All right, well, here's a free community. Let's do some coaching. Let's fucking go, right? Oh, I don't know if I should do that. Right? And then like it comes down to paying some money for something. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. Meanwhile, they pay the money. They pay the money on They pay the money 2, 3, 4 times over on dumb shit, alcohol, paying it on for girls that are low value, wasting it on some borderline personality disorder girl you met, wasting their money on stupid shit that distracts them from doing well. Like, you're just wasting your money, wasting your life. Some of you guys addicted to porn and OnlyFans girls waste your money on that too. Well, that's for you married guys, right? Wasting your money, wasting your resources. Instead of, I'll give another example. Guy wanted to do a coaching program, his life was fucked up. He made decent money, but his life wasn't doing well. What's he spending his money on? Prostitutes. He's spending his money on whores. And then it's like, oh, well, you should do my mastermind or something and stop doing that, right? Because he had a lot of other things going for him. He wouldn't save the money up, which isn't that much money when you look at it. It's actually not that expensive if you're interested and motivated. He wouldn't save that money up, right? Because he needed that money for prostitutes. But yet he comes to me for coaching and he wants to know, what the fuck do I do with my life? Like, do you see what I'm saying? And he has, of course, some story he tells himself as to why this is what he's doing. So let's just stop the bullshit, okay? And stop bullshitting yourself. Let's stop telling ourselves stories, regardless of what level in life that you're at, that are just giving you the excuses, right? And the reasons for not doing what you need to do. And let's start looking at the skills you need to develop to start doing better, and the plan you need to develop, and the actions you need to take. I think that's a lot more productive. All right. Take care.